If you love pigeons, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast, the world's only podcast dedicated to every aspect of the pigeon hobby. I'm your host, Philip Fry, and every episode is listener requested, ad-free, and created for pigeon enthusiasts from around the world. Whether you're flying homers, showing pigeons, flying performance breeds, keeping pigeons as pets, or just getting started in the hobby, we're here to learn, share, and celebrate pigeons together, connecting pigeon fanciers across countries, cultures, and generations. This is the All About Pigeons podcast. All right, hello and welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast. Today we're going to be talking about pigeons as pets with the creator of the Facebook group, Pigeons as Pets, Balfouri. So thanks so much for coming on and talking with us. Appreciate it.
Hi, yeah, it's good to be here.
So you started this Facebook group about a year ago, but how far back does this origin story go with you and pigeons as pets?
I started my social media platform about 2 or 3 years ago now. Over time, I've gotten about 350,000 followers on all different platforms. I've gotten a few 100 million views, but I don't really keep track on my videos. And it started from me with just really in I had seen other content creators, and it was very niche at the time. And they were, you know, talking about their pigeons that they had as pets, and I remember looking at that and going, wow, I didn't know they came in so many colors and shapes. And eventually I ended up looking more into it, and I adopted my first pigeon, and from there I just started creating on social media, sharing my life with my pigeons. And from there I started forming these groups. I have the Facebook group as well as a Discord group, which has about 5,000 people in it right now. And yeah, I just try to advocate for pigeons when I can.
And where did you get your first pigeon from?
I adopted my first pigeon from a pigeon rescue that was near me. And
Okay.
after I had gotten that pigeon, I ended up doing a lot of work for them where I was rescuing, rehabilitating. I ended up running their TikTok for a while as well, moderating their groups. And yeah, I loved the pigeons. It was crazy because I actually didn't really like birds until I got my first pigeon. And then it just kind of exploded.
So has pigeons kind of opened your eyes up to other birds then, or what?
In a sense, yes. I think my
Yeah.
heart does belong with pigeons, but I
Mhm.
definitely have felt more lovingly towards birds than I previously hadn't felt. I do really like chickens and turkey. I have been gravitating toward poultry, but I haven't gotten any of those myself yet. But yeah, I think pigeons are just awesome. They are just the pet for me.
Yeah. I mean, pigeons are still the coolest for sure.
Yeah.
So right now it's such a growing popularity thing, and I mean, in the pigeon world, even on this podcast, we try to touch on the racing world, the showing fancy side of it, rolling, high flyer, everything. But the pigeons as pets, I mean, you can put that right in there. It's such a growing thing right now. I want to hear your thoughts on why you think this is becoming so popular for pigeons as pets.
That's a good question. I don't really know where exactly it started from, but I do think it's been exploding a lot recently just because of all of the content creators who have been making content showing their life with their pigeons who are pets. It's not just me, there's plenty of other people as well. And a lot of people just don't even know that they make amazing pets. They're so friendly, they're really cheap in comparison to a lot of animals. They're quiet, they can be really cuddly, just like really good, great bonding animals.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And compared to getting parrots and stuff, I got friends who have parrots and, I'm not knocking parrots. I'm not trying to put one down to bring another up. I'm just saying that they're not nearly as noisy and price wise. They're significantly cheaper than getting parrots. And you don't want to create a supply and demand because sometimes in that market, those aren't necessarily brought in the best of ways when it comes to the parrots. Whereas, like you said, you got yours from a rescue. So, you're actually helping out a situation right there where a lot of those places are kind of inundated with birds.
Yeah, I definitely think, as much as I've grown to love parrots, I definitely think that they are not the pet for me. Bit too loud, bit too expensive, bit too demanding for my tastes.
Mhm. And there's some beautiful breeds. I've always said that the classic oak frills, those things are so close to parrot level. I mean, with their looks, they're such a beautiful breed of pigeon. If someone's really attracted to that, the colors and the crest and everything else, that's a very beautiful breed. And I have a friend who has one of those as a pet, and I mean, I think all pigeons have a certain nature to them that make them really great pets also. And people who, I keep pigeons and I have a pet pigeon as well. They're just great companions, and the personalities, they're all different. I mean, just like people, they're all so individual. It's fascinating to watch them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there are some just absolutely stunning colors. Like I love archangels as well. That gimple is
Oh,
just so gorgeous. Like classic gold frills, beautiful. There's so many beautiful colors. And a lot of the times whenever I bring my pigeon out with me somewhere, it depends on which pigeon, but they'll be like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a pigeon." And they're like, "I didn't even know it came in that color." And I'm like, "He's not even that pretty of a pigeon. You should see some of the other ones."
so how many pigeons do you have right now?
Right now, I have six. I do a little bit of rescuing and rehabbing kind of on my own. So I do have pigeons coming and going, fosters and whatnot. I have three pets, and then I have a breeding pair, and then just like I don't want to call them my pets, but they're also kind of my pets who I haven't officially called my pets yet. But yeah, and I do kind of have a loft for them. I'm sure some people would disagree, but I have a bedroom in my house that's all for them. It's about the size of most people's lofts. I keep it very clean. There's no smell, which is also something people ask a lot. Most of them don't have any cages. They just have like little nesting boxes or a corner that they really like, and they just hang out with each other, and they're all just the friendliest, most awesome birds. Like they super well handled. They love living inside. I mean, yeah.
So let's talk about people who are just getting into it, because I would say that a lot of the people who first get into it, rescue is kind of a pretty popular way I see people getting into it. So what would you say would be like pretty common thread that you see that would be a mistake that a lot of people are making when they first get a pigeon as a pet?
That's a good question. I think a lot of the time it's people not understanding. There's not a lot of great information out there about how to keep a pigeon as a pet and what to expect and everything that they need that's different from these guys who have like hundreds of pigeons. And a lot of the times it can get kind of misconstrued. People kind of throw parrot advice and care onto pigeons when that a lot of the times you can't combine the two because it could actually be harmful for the pigeon. Like there's some medicines out there that are really common for parrots that will kill your pigeon. It's a little crazy, but it's a lot of just misconception or misinformation based mistakes. Um, Usually things relating to people who will go a bit too crazy with their cage, like they'll end up getting buying like a ton of toys that the pigeon will never use, or people not knowing that pigeons need vitamin supplements because if you're keeping a bird indoors, I mean it's missing out on some things you got to fill in, things like that.
So what would be some of the like equipment, I guess you could say, that cages and stuff like that that you would tell people to get right off the bat, maybe even before getting that first pigeon?
Yeah, the good thing about pigeons, keeping them as pets, is that you can really, a lot of people keep them in like dog crates. Like you can get like one for 20 bucks off Facebook Marketplace, and that works great. But some people can go, like they think that a pigeon needs like this whole super sturdy, huge cage. And as long as obviously nobody here recommends keeping a bird in a cage its whole life. And when it comes to keeping a pigeon as a pet, everyone will recommend and often require that you let them out to fly around your house and stuff. You're not keeping it in a cage its whole life. But a lot of the time, these people just go like super overboard because they just see like the parrot laws and they think that parrot care applies to pigeons. And a lot of the times it just doesn't.
Definitely. It's a one of the things I do for mine. I got a Eurasian tumbler and it's super random. I got it from a guy in Phoenix who flies them competitively. So he had a kit of them. And so it wasn't, I didn't like hand feed this thing from youth or anything. He just randomly pulled one out and we took it home. And it was just absolutely like the sweetest, most affectionate. I mean, you would think that I hand fed this bird, from birth or something, but it is just, you know, I can take it outside, it'll fly and come back to my shoulder and stuff. And if I'm hanging out, it just stays. It's such a sweet bird. But it just, it came out of this guy's loft. It was just that personality of the bird. But I'll say this, like the biggest tip that I've had, because I've tried the diaper system on them, right, where you put them in like the pants. And she didn't really like it. She was really uncomfortable and she did kind of get used to it after a while, but what I found was really effective was I have a perch. She's up there in it right now. And when I take her out of the cage, the first thing I do is I just put her on that perch for like 10, 15 minutes and let her kind of all that stimulation of just first getting out, in the morning or whatever. Then after that, she's pretty much good, chill, hang out, whatever. But at least she has her own little area and then, it handles the poop situation because that's obviously an issue sometimes when you have something flying around the house, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of people also don't really like the diapers, and I get it. I've had success with them, but for the most part, I don't use diapers on my birds because they have the whole room. I've just accepted that if I'm gonna have a bunch of pigeons, I'm gonna be cleaning a bunch of pigeon poop. So
Yeah.
I've kind of
Yeah.
just gotten used to that. But no, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that can be the most off-putting about pigeons as pets is the fact that you also have to clean up after them, and they're not the cleanest in terms of the mess that they make. Like they can make a lot of mess, so it can be really off-putting for people, especially new owners.
Yeah. And the dander. I know that there's always been a lot of I've seen online a couple people being saying things like, "Oh, it's going to create so much dander, and you're going to get pigeon lung and all this stuff." Um, for me myself, as long as they're getting a bath on a regular basis, I never really have like I don't have dust all over, around where their cage is. Have you had any issue with that with your pigeons?
Honestly, I have a bunch of air purifiers. I have about three air purifiers that are rated for it. My room's a little under 200 square feet, so the air purifiers, I believe, are like, oh, they're crazy. They're like um 1900 square feet or something,
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't have
Yeah.
issues with, like, the room is totally clear, there's no smell, like I
Mm,
said, which air purifiers also help with that. I do have to vacuum out the pre-filters of the purifiers very often, and it's kind of crazy how much the buildup like happens, but also I have a lot more pigeons inside than what most people are keeping inside.
right.
So yeah, when it comes to the dust, I think it just more so depends on how many pigeons you have, because when I did just have one, I didn't find it that bad, honestly. Like we had like a mesh around his cage when we first got him that like kept all the feathers in and stuff. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
we never saw it like around the bottom of the cage. All the seeds like stayed inside as well.
hmm Yeah, that's a good tip right there too. Yeah, so on Fluffy's cage, we got like a cardboard that goes around the back three sides, just to keep like you said, like the seeds from flying out if they're getting picky or whatever. And if she starts flapping her wings to keep the chips from blowing out from the bottom of the tray. And of course, keeping the top and front open up. But that's a good tip right there. What other supplies would you say would be necessary? So you got the crate. What else would you need to get the setup going?
I think when it comes to keeping one indoors, definitely a good supplement. Um, I also highly recommend a lot of people because they need the flat perches, and a lot of people will have trouble finding the flat perches, or maybe they'll be ridiculously expensive because they're usually made for parrots. But since pigeons don't chew on their surroundings like parrots do, I've actually had great luck just ordering like wall shelves off of Amazon, the kind that you're supposed to like drill into the wall. You can get a pack of those, maybe like five or six of them for like 20 bucks, and they, oh my god, they'll be awesome for your pigeon. Your pigeon will be very happy with those perches. Another thing, of course, is going to be providing any like nesting material, nest bowl if they need it. It's definitely a more pigeon by pigeon base, but if you have a pair, I would definitely provide that. Pigeon toys I've found to be extremely overrated. A lot of people in the pet pigeon community will recommend them, and then I'll have a lot of people coming to my communities being like, why doesn't my pigeon use any of his toys? And I'm like, well, he's not really gonna like it. And then you'll see some of these people, they'll be like, oh, well, if you train them to use the toy, maybe they
Hmm.
will. And I'm like, well, maybe if you're training a bird to use a toy, it probably doesn't really need the toy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that to be pretty overrated. In general, I don't know. They're just such really easy animals. I really enjoy the cage liners that I use. I actually use it's called vinyl sheet flooring, and it's kind of like a foams, like a waterproof foam type of thing that's meant to be overlaid on flooring. And you can get a roll for pretty cheap and just cut it to fit out the cage. And it's awesome. And they love it because it's comfy on their feet and it's super easy to clean. And yeah.
Nice. And they're totally a social creature, and you got six of them. So can you talk a little bit about the amount of time that a person's gonna be required to spend? I mean, you definitely, like you said, you don't want to just if you're gonna get a pigeon and put it in a cage and just leave it in a cage, then don't get a pigeon. So what kind of interactions are we talking about? Like how much time should you be, you know, thinking about spending with your pigeon every day?
Oh, absolutely. I guess it more so depends on the pigeon itself. Like if you have a single pigeon, you're definitely going to have to spend way more time with that pigeon than you would if you had a pair. Most of my pigeons, they're pretty happy just interacting with me for about like honestly, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour a day because they all have their husbands and their wives and their eggs.
Yeah.
They got their own lives going on. But I've got the ones that are really attached to me. They want to spend every single waking moment with me. Personally, and this will vary based on who you ask, but I don't recommend people spend any less than like 5 to 6 hours with their pet pigeon if they have a single one, just because they are flock animals. And if you're
Yeah.
going to be taking them away from that social setting and you're essentially replacing the flock, you got to be able to put in that time. But that's just really my own opinion. I think it's honestly a bit more ideal if you can go a bit up to 8. But, we all have our own lives and stuff. I'm not going to judge if you're hitting those 6 hours.
But at the same time, I mean, it's just doing what you're already doing, right? Like I take Fluffy and, she loves shoulder rides. So if I'm doing stuff outside, just whatever you're doing, take them with you. Um, car
Oh,
rides,
yeah,
stuff like that.
absolutely.
They have those really cool leashes and stuff if, you are worried about them flying off. But yeah, it's not like sit down and do 8 hours of training or anything. Just take them with you and do what you're doing because Fluffy is, she doesn't have other pigeons to hang out with, so she's very clingy. And so I just do stuff that I'm already going to do and just take her with. I mean, that's a good way to get that time in with your bird if you have a one-on-one situation because they're super social and it changes. I mean, you've seen it probably if you have a one-on-one bird and then you bring another bird into the situation, then you kind of get pushed to the back burner because now they got another one of their own and you know,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It definitely, when I think about my clingiest bird, he is so happy, literally just sitting and face first on my feet. Like, he just loves cuddling with my feet. That's what he spends all his days doing. I don't have to do anything fancy with him. Like you said, spending time with them doesn't mean like it's this intense training session. It's just being with them. And, that's just what they want.
yeah. So what would you say to somebody who maybe came across like a feral pigeon that's obviously injured and, in their head they're gonna take it home, fix it up, and maybe get a pet pigeon out of the deal?
I would recommend that you contact someone who's experienced in rehabbing and rescuing first, just to make sure that, you've got everything that you can do for this bird and you know what to do and you've got this that you can provide for the bird. Because a lot of people, when they see a sick and injured bird, they don't have the knowledge behind it on what exactly is going on with that bird. And sometimes it can be more serious than you originally think. But assuming you pick up this bird and it's relatively easy to heal back to health, in my opinion, I would say that not every single pigeon out there is going to make a great pet. It's definitely based on personality. There are some birds out there that just really love human companionship, and there are some out there that would just much rather be in a loft with a husband or a wife. And if you take this pigeon and you want to rehab it, that's amazing, awesome. But I would consider doing what's best for the pigeon. So maybe if it doesn't warm up with you, maybe you get it a husband or a wife, or maybe you consider rehoming it to a nice like aviary where it's going to live out its life being really happy. But I would definitely just keep the birds' wellness in mind. That would be personally what I would have as the highest priority. But assuming everything aligns and, this bird is healthy and this bird loves people and it's doing really well indoors, um, as long as you do the proper research, you're going to have like the best friend ever for the next like 10 to 15 years. Like you're going to have so much fun with this bird.
Right. I think that's another thing what you just said right there that people don't realize is how long these birds can live for. I mean, they can, I know pigeon fanciers that have birds for over 20 years. You take care of these, then you can have a bird for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of people who think that. Sorry, let me redo that.
You're good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of people that don't understand like exactly how long these birds live for. And it either goes on either side. Like some people think like, oh, I'm gonna have this bird for the next 5 years because when you're like getting this pigeon from the wild, if that's what you were doing, they would typically only live a few years just because they're not meant for the wild. They're domesticated animal. And then we have the other side of the spectrum who think that parrot parrot care and information applies to pigeons. And so they're like, I'm going to have this pigeons for like 30 or 40 years. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, they can live a pretty long time. And it's crazy because you just, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't guess.
Oh. So I want to shift gears a little bit because a lot of there's so many different pigeon groups online, and there's a lot of different pigeon groups for pigeon breed specific groups, and then there's pigeon racing groups, roller groups. There's your groups like the Pigeons as Pets, and you'll see kind of a divide between some of like the pet pigeon groups and like the traditional pigeon breeders. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, why you think there's this divide here, because we're all pigeon people, right?
Oh man, this is a touchy subject. I wouldn't say that it's as simple as pet pigeon people versus breeders. In a lot of the cases, the pet pigeon people actually don't have too much beef with breeders. I would say there's more so four different pigeon communities that where it gets confusing. So there's like the pet pigeon community, there's the breeder community slash showing community, there's the racing community, and then there's the pigeon rescue community. And a lot of these communities are tied into each other, but it's less so about the breeders versus pet people. I think really where a lot of the tension stems from is the rescue versus the racing people. And because racing is so conjoined with breeding and pet people are so conjoined with rescue, I think that the four groups can kind of blend a little bit. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of issues that stem from these groups.
Yeah, and that's where, definitely I wish that there'd be more of a kind of bridging the gap, and we all love pigeons. And of course with groups of people, there's always going to be kind of a rotten apple that one person's going to look and be like, because of this one rotten apple, F that whole group sort of a thing. And, that's kind of a shame in my opinion, because like I said also in the beginning of this, like this pet pigeon wave, it's huge. Like it's gonna help the pigeon hobby as a whole. It is a whole other chapter that's gonna come up. It's like I said, I lump it up there in the same thing. It's just another aspect of how people have kept pigeons for thousands of years. And I would bet anything that thousands of years ago, people had pigeons as just pets. It wasn't always just agriculture. It wasn't always just messengers. And I guarantee you, people had these as just loving companions also.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that it's just unfortunate. There's emphasis on the like one bad apple thing because there are a few members from all communities that are going to just absolutely destroy people's opinions of that group. It's part of the reason why I left Pigeon Rescue because the Pigeon Rescue community in general can be very intolerant, very opinionated. They have had histories of harassment. Like it's kind of an extreme bit of lore that's gone on with that side of the community that kind of not only does it really affect people's opinions on pigeon rescue, and obviously even breeders and racers are they most of them are going to think that rescuing pigeons who need it are a good thing because in the end every single one of these communities we all just love pigeons. That's we have that all in common. And when it comes to these bad apples in all communities, it really divides us. And not only does it cause a lot of friction between the groups, which ends up making a lot of people pull away from the pigeon community, but it also just drives away people who want to join these communities, but they see what's going on and they're like, I don't want any part of that. But
And so
I lost my
would you
train of
ever
thought
have
there.
any issues with I know that you said that you got a pigeon or some pigeons in the past from rescues. Would you ever have any issue with getting a pigeon from per se like a fancy show breeder?
Oh no, absolutely not. I've purchased pigeons from fancy show breeders before.
Okay.
I've recommended people to certain show breeders. I always, of course, recommend people rescue if that's what they want, but also some people want something in specific. Maybe they want a classic old frill, and maybe there aren't any available in rescues at that time. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Do you, speaking of all these different breeds, do you think that there are certain breeds that make better pets because of the breed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that classic old frills and old German owls, those are breeds that are very
Oh yeah.
heavily recommended for beginner-friendly birds, beginner-friendly pigeons, more like. But they're super. If you look at all these people who have pet pigeons, like 8 out of 10 times they're going to be one of these breeds, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're amazing, they're adorable, and that they do tend to be more friendly, especially when you factor in there's a lot of breeders out there that actually breed specifically for companionship. And a lot of these breeders have these breeds either primarily that's what they keep or that's like a base in their line. And yeah, I think another thing, kind of going back a little bit back on the last question, a lot of pet people are really interested in buying a bird from a breeder, but a lot of the time they just don't know how to contact these breeders because whenever you think about today's day and age and you're like, oh, I don't know, a cheeseburger. You Google buy cheeseburger near me. You can't find these people online. Like if you were to Google like I want to get a pet pigeon near me, like nothing would ever come up. And that's actually an issue I had when I first got into Modinas, which is a breed that I had always wanted so desperately. And I ended up having to join a bunch of groups and I ended up like borderline stalking people on their profiles, like to see if they lived near me. And eventually I did find someone who lived near me. But it's like, it's difficult. It's difficult if you're a pet pigeon person and you
Yeah.
want to get a pigeon. It's hard to find someone.
Yeah. I mean, but it makes sense though, because breeders, they're all working for this perfection of standards. So they're always having these birds that come out and if a color's off or whatever, then, they'll sell it as, and the term is, pet quality pigeon. It's a good bird. It's just got a weird color, so it's pet quality. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like if you're not part of like a local club or something like that, then you're not going to be tapped in because the pigeon hobby is so weird. It's like we're everywhere but nowhere, because they are everywhere. They're cities, states, everyone has clubs and they're all meeting, they're all doing stuff, but it's kind of like, I don't know, if you know, it's you got to be kind of a part of it already, and that's kind of a shame. And really, it's like I'm with the Arizona Pigeon Club, and we have people in our club that the only pigeons they have are just pet pigeons. And, that's fine because we all love pigeons. And, they'll show their pigeon. And honestly, those ones do really well because especially they'll put on the biggest show because they're so personable. They get so much interaction, they do a really great job. So, I mean, I would encourage, people who do pigeons as pets to join, pigeon clubs and things like this because it will put you in touch with other pigeon people and you can find more of that pet quality pigeons if you are looking for some.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I ended up joining the National Modena Club a year or two ago, I'm not sure. And I've met so many just amazing people. People who are just they will do anything to make you feel welcomed. They will go out of the way to just, set you up. If you want a bird, they will absolutely set you up.
Right.
And it's like that everywhere. Like so many, and not only breeders, but like it doesn't matter which breed, you know what I mean? Not just the Modena Club. Like pigeon people just love pigeons and they love spreading their love for pigeons. And if you're interested in pigeons, especially if you're new, they are going to go out of their way and really just make sure you feel welcome.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thread amongst almost all clubs, all breed clubs, specialty breeds clubs. There's definitely, some really friendly people in those clubs, really willing to help out new members and stuff too. With someone who's listening to this, maybe we spark something and they may be curious about getting a pigeon. Maybe they're listening because they're on the fence about it. What kind of advice would you give that person who's kind of teetering or playing with the idea of getting a pet pigeon?
I would say to know what you want in a pet pigeon beforehand, because I mean, like you mentioned at the beginning of this, they are all so different personality wise. Like you can have one pigeon that just absolutely loves to play with you nonstop. Like he'll be biting on your toes, he'll be flying to you and spinning, and you'll have some pigeons that'll just like all they want to do is just sit in your lap and cuddle, like nonstop. And just try to think about, because whatever your lifestyle is, I guarantee you there is a pigeon that will absolutely fit it. So if you're someone who maybe you want to go on adventures, maybe you are someone who likes to go outside all the time, try to think about what type of pigeon you would want. So maybe you want one who is really confident, really bold, really curious. Maybe you're a bit more of an indoor person, and maybe you just want a pet who's just going to be sitting with you and hanging out with you, maybe cuddling with your feet like mine. But just try to keep in mind like what you want and try to look for pigeons with these things in mind so that you don't end up like disappointed and maybe that ruins your experience with pigeons, because that actually happened with me with my first pigeon. Because I'd adopted this pigeon, and social media had told me that they were all just so friendly, so cuddly, so sweet. And I still have him to this day. I love him. He's an amazing bird, but he wants absolutely nothing to do with humans. He does not cuddle with us. He is terrified of noises and things. And it almost ruined pigeons for me. I remember being really dejected when I got him, but I gave pigeons another chance and I ended up adopting more, and I just fell in love with them. I was like, wow, they can be so different, so unique. And that's something I really try to let my followers or people who ask me questions know, because it's something that can be really discouraging if you don't know about it. And it might ruin an animal that actually fits really well in your life for you because you just got unlucky.
Yeah, yeah, that's good advice for sure. Well, we're coming up against the clock here. Can you tell listeners how they can find you on some of your different social media?
Yeah, you can find me on, I believe TikTok is my most followed platform. I am just at Balfouri. I'm also Balfouri on Instagram and Balfouri on Facebook. I'm a bit new on Facebook now, but yeah, you can find me on any of those platforms. I post not only educational content sometimes, but also just goofy videos with me and my birds. So if you're interested, check me out.
Well, Balfouri, thanks so much for coming on, and hey, thanks for everything that you're doing for this side of the hobby. It needs it. All that content's and just fascinating stuff. So thanks so much. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's another episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. Thanks for joining us today and for being a part of this incredible pigeon community. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a fellow pigeon fancier. Leave a comment, follow wherever you're listening. Every share helps introduce more people to the hobby that we all love. You can find our one-of-a-kind merchandise, support our nonprofit mission with a donation, and explore all the different resources we have available for you at pigeonpod.com. That's pigeonpod.com. Do you have a topic that you'd like us to cover? Do you have a guest that you want to have on the show? Maybe you yourself would like to come on and just talk pigeons with us. Go ahead and send us an email at staff@pigeonpod.com. Remember, every episode of the All About Pigeons podcast is listener requested and completely ad-free thanks to the support of this community. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Philip Fry, and remember, together, the hobby thrives, support each other, and enjoy your pigeons.